Before you listen, let me tell you this. My mother showed up in a wedding dress to my wedding, and that's not even the most insane thing that happened that day. What unfolded was a betrayal, a high-stakes escape, and the most satisfying public humiliation a narcissistic mother could ever receive. You think you've heard a wedding disaster story. You haven't heard anything yet. Clara had always known her mother, Eleanor, was not like other mothers. Where other mothers offered gentle guidance, Eleanor offered judgment dressed as advice. Where other mothers celebrated, Eleanor competed. Her life was a meticulously curated stage, and every other person was merely a prop designed to enhance her leading role. The planning of Clara's wedding to her fiancé, Liam, had been, predictably, a masterclass in psychological warfare. Eleanor insisted on the grandest venue in the city, the conservatory, a palace of glass and marble designed for royalty, not a simple heartfelt union. She micromanaged the guest list, removing Clara's childhood friends in favor of her own social contacts. The invitations, the seating chart, the 10-tier cake, all bore Eleanor's signature brand of opulent excess. Clara endured it, hoping that appeasement would eventually lead to peace, and more importantly, to her mother's attendance without a scene. Liam, bless his unshakable kind heart, saw Eleanor for exactly what she was. An emotional tyrant cloaked in silk and diamonds. He had been Clara's rock, her quiet counsel, the man who knew how to defuse Eleanor's bombs with calm logic, or failing that, distracting humor. He was a steady anchor in a lifetime of emotional storms. It was 3 weeks before the wedding, and Clara was meeting Eleanor for the final dress fitting. The mood was already tense. Clara's gown was simple, elegant, and perfectly tailored, a quiet statement against the backdrop of Eleanor's chosen extravagance. Eleanor, however, arrived late, sweeping into the bridal boutique with the dramatic flair of a prima donna missing her cue. "Darling, you look perfectly sweet," Eleanor declared, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for poorly baked goods. She didn't embrace Clara. She merely air-kissed the space next to her cheek, ensuring her own pristine makeup remained untouched. Clara bit back a sigh. "Thank you, Mother. It's what I wanted." "Yes, well, I needed a final fitting myself," Eleanor announced, beckoning to a bewildered stylist. "Bring out the one in the back, the custom piece." Clara watched, a knot of cold dread tightening in her stomach. As the stylist returned, struggling slightly with a massive trailing garment bag, Eleanor dismissed the stylist with a flick of her hand and, without bothering to close the dressing room door, slipped the dress over her head. When she stepped out, Clara felt the blood drain from her face. It was white. Not cream, not champagne, not subtle silver or gold. It was pristine, cathedral white. The fabric was heavy silk, fashioned into a mermaid silhouette, complete with intricate beading and a modest yet undeniable train. It was, to anyone who glanced at it, a wedding gown. The only thing missing was a veil. "Mother, what is that?" Clara's voice was a barely controlled tremor, her carefully constructed facade of calm crumbling instantly. Eleanor slowly turned, posing slightly to catch the light, her face radiating a smug satisfaction that transcended mere vanity. "Isn't it breathtaking, Clara? I told them I wanted something that would truly reflect the magnitude of the day. As the mother of the bride, I must uphold the family's image, darling. You, of course, have your sweet little dress, but I need something arresting." "Arresting? Mother, it's white. It's a bridal gown," Clara stated, her hands clenching into fists. The stylist, pale and backing away, wisely chose that moment to disappear. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Clara. It's not exactly white, it's winter ivory, which is completely different," Eleanor sniffed, running a manicured hand down the bodice. "Besides, no one is going to confuse a mother of the bride with the bride. I'm simply ensuring that the photography is of the highest caliber. Think of the contrast. 2 radiant figures in the family, side by side. It's visually stunning." "No," Clara said, shaking her head, the tremor turning into a furious, slow burn. "Absolutely not. You know the rule. You know what white means. It's my wedding day. Not a competition, and you will not wear a white dress. Pick literally any other color. I don't care if it's black, scarlet, or neon green, just not white." Eleanor's expression instantly fractured, her glamorous mask dissolving into a look of wounded martyrdom. Her eyes welled up, but the tears never quite fell, a trick Clara knew well. "How dare you speak to me like that?" Eleanor whispered, her voice cracking with manufactured vulnerability. "After everything I've done for you, I have poured my heart, soul, and fortune into giving you this fantasy wedding, and this is the thanks I get? A petty demand over a shade of fabric? It shows such a lack of respect, such appalling ingratitude." Clara was cornered, trapped by the familiar script. Any attempt to stand her ground was met with this instant, debilitating counterattack. "It's not petty, Mother. It's about respect for me, for Liam, for the entire tradition." Eleanor dramatically clutched her chest. "My heart is breaking. You would shame me? You would forbid me from wearing the one outfit that makes me feel dignified and appropriate for this monumental occasion? Very well. If you insist on tearing me down on your big day, if you insist on making this about your controlling nature, then I simply won't attend. I will not subject myself to this emotional abuse." She paused, letting the statement hang in the air like a guillotine blade before delivering the final devastating blow. "And don't think for a moment that your father and brother will attend without me. We are a family, Clara. If you alienate one of us, you alienate us all. You can have your precious white dress, but you will be walking down the aisle alone, to a church half empty, a laughing stock. Is that what you want, Clara? A lonely wedding just to satisfy your spite?" Clara felt a wave of nausea. The thought of her father, her beloved younger brother, and the entire maternal side of her family not being there was a crushing weight. Eleanor knew exactly where to strike. She knew Clara craved the unity of her family, even if it meant tolerating Eleanor's toxicity. The grand, expensive wedding instantly felt tainted, worthless. She looked at the gorgeous, inappropriate white dress Eleanor was wearing and saw not silk, but a straitjacket of expectation, a symbol of a lifetime of manipulation. That evening, Clara was a wreck. She paced their apartment, the beautiful, meticulously planned wedding binder now looking like a book of horrors. Liam found her sobbing in the kitchen, the weight of the past few weeks finally overwhelming her. He didn't ask questions. He simply held her until the storm passed. "She won. Liam." "She always win," Clara choked out. "I have to tell her she can wear the dress. I can't risk losing Dad and Mike. I just can't." Liam pulled back, cupping her face in his steady hands. His eyes, usually crinkled with good humor, were serious and focused. "No, Clara, she doesn't win. You think wearing that dress is the victory? No. The victory is that she's made you think her presence, under her terms, is essential to your happiness. It's not." He sat her down, pulling a notepad towards him. "We've spent 6 months planning her wedding. We've fought a losing battle for control over a single day. And the prize for winning that battle? A miserable, tense ceremony where your own mother tries to steal the spotlight while you're walking down the aisle. That's not a marriage. That's a hostage exchange." He took her hand, his thumb tracing soothing circles on her skin. "We're getting married, Clara. That's the only thing that matters. The location, the crowd, the fancy food, it's all noise. We need to silence the noise." Then, an idea, born of desperation and a sudden exhilarating clarity, flashed in his eyes. "We're not going to fight her anymore," Liam declared, his voice low and conspiratorial. "We're going to let her believe she's won. She can wear the dress, she can have her grand stage, but we won't be there to perform for her." Clara looked at him, confused but intrigued. "What are you saying?" Liam smiled, a genuine rogue smile that made her heart race. "I'm saying we're running away. We're going to get married on our terms, just us. It's a place where winter ivory doesn't matter, and the only audience is the ocean." Over the next few days, their plan solidified. It was executed with a thrilling, almost criminal secrecy. They maintained the facade perfectly. Clara called Eleanor, sounding defeated. "Mother, you were right. I've overreacted. You can wear the dress. Just promise me you'll be there, and bring Dad and Mike." Eleanor's response was immediate and sickeningly sweet. "Of course, darling. I knew you'd come to your senses. It's all about compromise, isn't it?" She had not won. She had triumphed. The grand white dress was now being custom-fitted for last-minute alterations. Eleanor was ecstatic, already planning her own spotlight moment at the reception. Meanwhile, Clara and Liam were systematically dismantling their own expensive charade. They cancelled the last-minute flower order, paid off the venue's deposit loss with a shrug, and told the wedding planner, Marcus, that they had a sudden, dramatic change of heart and would be handling the final details themselves. A plausible excuse given Eleanor's unpredictable nature. They booked 2 tickets to a small, nearly unpopulated island in the Caribbean, a place known only for its untouched, blinding white sand and turquoise water. The escape was scheduled for the day before the wedding. They packed only essentials, a small suitcase each, a change of light, simple clothes, a copy of their passports, and a small worn volume of poetry that Liam had read to her on their first date. Clara also included a single, simple sundress she had purchased months ago, long before the chaos began. A dress she now knew would be her actual wedding gown. They didn't tell a soul, not even Clara's brother Mike, whom she adored. The risk of Eleanor's surveillance was too high. They knew that if one person knew, Eleanor would extract the information. The night before the supposed wedding, Clara and Liam had a quiet, intimate dinner at home. They watched old movies, drank cheap champagne, and laughed nervously, giddy with the audacity of their plan. The tension that had coiled around Clara's chest for months finally began to unravel. "Are we truly doing this, Liam?" Clara whispered as they lay in bed, the city lights filtering through their window. "We are," he confirmed, kissing her forehead. "We're choosing ourselves. We're choosing peace. We're choosing a marriage built on a foundation of reality, not performance." At 4:00 a.m., on what was supposed to be their wedding day, they slipped out of their apartment. They left their phones charging on the kitchen counter, a small, subtle message of radio silence. They drove their car to a long-term parking lot, miles away from the airport, took a taxi the rest of the way, and boarded a flight to freedom. As the plane climbed above the clouds, Clara looked down at the sprawling city, a world of expectations and obligations shrinking beneath her. A single, pure tear of relief tracked down her cheek. She was running to a marriage, not from one, and the difference felt like the world. Meanwhile, across town, the machine of the grand wedding was already in motion. Eleanor awoke at 6:00 a.m., invigorated by her victory. She had a full day of hair, makeup, and media coordination ahead of her. Yes, she'd hired a small photographer to discreetly follow her throughout the day, ensuring she got her own personal album of the occasion. At 2:00 p.m., the guests began to arrive at the conservatory. The venue was magnificent. Hundreds of thousands of dollars had transformed the glass palace into a floral spectacle. Waiters in pristine uniforms stood ready with trays of imported champagne. The band was setting up, the lighting was perfect, and the buzz of anticipation was palpable. Eleanor made her entrance precisely at 3:30 p.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. She insisted on a separate dramatic entry through the main ornate doors. She was resplendent, her winter ivory gown blinding under the venue's vaulted skylight. She was, in her mind, the true star, the Queen Mother gracing her kingdom. She greeted her friends and rivals with exaggerated air kisses and self-deprecating but fishing for compliments, comments about her simple dress. She was enjoying every second of the attention, the curious glances, the barely hidden murmurs of the guests. A few family members looked uncomfortable, sensing the deliberate, aggressive defiance of tradition, but none dared to comment. "Oh, darling, is Clara here yet?" Eleanor asked one of the ushers, adjusting the delicate diamond bracelet on her wrist. "She is a little scatterbrained, but I expect she's in the bridal suite, weeping with joy, of course." The usher, a nervous young man hired for the day, looked confused. "Ma'am, I haven't seen the bride or the groom. Mr. Marcus, the planner, asked me to inform everyone that we're having a slight delay." Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "Nonsense, the ceremony starts in 15 minutes. Go and fetch them. They're probably hiding. It's nerves, you see." 4 o'clock came and went. The guests were starting to shift uncomfortably. The champagne was flowing a little too freely. Eleanor, seated regally in the front row, began to frown. This was not the smooth start she had envisioned. Her moment in the spotlight was being delayed. "Where is that planner, Marcus?" she snapped, standing up abruptly, drawing a fresh wave of attention. "This is an absolute scandal. The timing of the light is crucial for the photos." Just then Marcus, Liam's best man and one of the few people Eleanor did not intimidate, approached the front. His face was a mask of strained composure. He held an official-looking envelope. "Eleanor," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the suddenly silent hall, "we have an announcement." Eleanor beamed, thinking this was her cue to walk up and make a theatrical, calming speech. "Finally, what is it, dear? A small delay, I assume." Marcus opened the envelope and cleared his throat. He looked directly at Eleanor, bypassing the hundreds of other faces. "Clara and Liam will not be joining us today," he announced simply. A collective gasp swept through the conservatory. The sound was immediately followed by 100 whispers. Eleanor looked stunned, her mouth slightly ajar, her theatrical poise utterly shattered. "What? That's absurd! They're having cold feet! Where are they?" she demanded, her voice rising to a shriek. "Tell them to come out of the suite this instant. I won't tolerate this childish behavior." "They are not in the suite, Eleanor," Marcus stated calmly, folding the paper. "They left. They departed early this morning. They sent this message to be read exactly at 4:15 p.m. He paused, letting the silence stretch, forcing Eleanor to endure the gaze of every single person she had invited to witness her triumph. Then Marcus read the short note. "To our beloved friends and family, we apologize for the sudden change of plans. We realized in the final hours that the wedding we had planned was not about us, but about a performance we were no longer willing to give. We have decided to honor our love in a private, intimate ceremony, far away from the city, the cameras, and the noise. Please know we love you all very much. We ask that you treat this magnificent venue as a party, a thank you for your love and support, and a celebration of a decision made for pure, unadulterated happiness. We are now married, and we are blissfully free. With all our love, Clara and Liam." The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor stood frozen in her grand white gown, the center of attention in the most humiliating way possible. She hadn't stolen the spotlight. She had become the object of pity, confusion, and, for some, quiet, knowing satisfaction. Her perfectly constructed world had collapsed. She had spent a fortune and exerted every manipulative muscle to be the star, only to find the stage empty. The realization that Clara had outsmarted her, that her daughter had finally broken free, was a blow more painful than any emotional threat. She hadn't just lost the spotlight, she had lost her daughter's obedience. Clara's father, who had known nothing, walked over to Eleanor, his face a mixture of relief and confusion. "Eleanor, you need to change. This is a scandal. We need to salvage this party." But Eleanor didn't move. Her beautiful, expensive white dress now looked like a costume for a forgotten play. All the attention was on her, but it was the wrong kind of attention. It was scrutiny, not adoration. She had nowhere to go, no role to play, no audience to impress. She, the diva, was reduced to a footnote in a story about an unexpected act of true love. The ultimate revenge of the subdued child was silence and disappearance. Thousands of miles away, Clara stood ankle-deep in the warm, impossibly clear water of a secluded Caribbean cove. The sand was genuinely white, reflecting the sun like diamonds. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of the waves and the cry of a distant seabird. Her wedding dress was the simple, lightweight sundress, a soft, pale blue that mirrored the sky. Liam, wearing linen trousers and a loose white shirt, held her hands. A kind, elderly local, the only other human on the beach, was officiating. "Clara," Liam said, looking into her eyes, the sun turning his gaze to gold. "I promise you a life where your happiness is the priority. I promise you peace, laughter, and an unshakable truth that we belong to each other, not to the expectations of others. I love you, completely and finally." Clara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her, a feeling she hadn't known since childhood. She wasn't nervous. She was simply and utterly right. "Liam, I promise you a life without performance. I promise to be your refuge, your co-conspirator, and your anchor. Thank you for showing me how to choose freedom. I love you more than words can say. They exchanged simple gold bands. When the ceremony was over, they kissed, a long, saltwater kiss that sealed their bond against the entire world they had left behind. They spent the evening swimming in the bioluminescent bay, their rings glowing softly in the dark water, truly alone for the first time in their lives. The grand party back at the conservatory eventually petered out, a strange, expensive failure. Eleanor eventually left in a fit of rage, blaming everyone but herself for the disaster. Clara and Liam returned home a week later, tanned, relaxed, and married. The backlash was severe, a cascade of angry calls and texts from Eleanor and the extended family she had coerced. But it no longer mattered. They had started their marriage not with a public declaration of wealth and status, but with a quiet, powerful act of defiance and self-determination. They had chosen a lifetime of quiet happiness over a single day of spectacular misery. And that, Clara knew, was the greatest triumph of all. The dress that threatened to ruin her life became the ultimate symbol of her emancipation.